and we're in. Yo. Welcome, welcome. It's another beautiful Tuesday afternoon, and you're hanging with your favorite nerds. Minus one today. Our fearless British representation, Drew, is not going to be able to join us on this game, but that's all good. He'll be back before you know it. So, yeah, this is Volohin, Winds of War. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the Dungeon Master, Asa.
Dungeon Master is engaging in Twitch chat,
How
so
dare you!
Well, while he was doing that, I did want to kind
no.
of briefly touch on. So on Twitter, I put out a little poll. I want to run 1 to 2 more games for this channel, and so on Twitter, I put out a poll to see which of amongst the 4 games that I listed there are people would like to see. Roll for Mischief has retweeted it, but if you can also search for Joshua Brickley or at original Rubahawk, whichever. That should help. You can go, you can vote, and if it looks like we have interest in one, then I'll start planning and putting together, depending on what it is, 1 to 2 games. If you are not sure which one to vote for or what I'm going with each of them, reply to the post and I will answer.
Do you want to give us a real quick rundown of
Okay.
each of those options and what the game would look like?
Tell
So,
us.
The Tiberian Initiative is the structure. It would be a not necessarily continuation of the episode of Star Trek Adventures that we just did. It would probably be new characters, but it would be in that same realm of the Tiberian Initiative. So yeah, Star Trek Adventures game, anti-Section 31, or counter Section 31 technically. Agency of some kind. The second one was, hold on, let me see if I can pull up which ones they were really quick.
There was the
Oh
Dragon
yes, there's
Heist.
Seasons of Dragon Heist.
Mm-hmm.
That's the second one. That one is basically what I want to do is I want to run Waterdeep Dragon Heist as an Adventures League game, every season. Because for those that don't know, the entire game of Dragon Heist can change based on whether it's spring, summer, autumn, or winter. And so I'm gonna run completely AL rules, Adventures League rules, and then how that format will work. I don't know if I want to just do one back to back, or if maybe I want to run 4 games and like on a Saturday just do 16 hours of D&D.
Oh my
I'm not
God.
sure yet.
Damn,
What?
that'd be a thing.
Marathon.
I haven't decided, but I do want to run that, do that where everybody is able to see all of the seasons of Dragon Heist. The third one is Deep Dungeons and High Tides. Deep Dungeons and High Tides is a Waterworld Wind Waker style game where it's mostly ocean. It is a high seas game with ships and whatnot, but then there are also dungeons, all like Wind Waker. So certain islands and whatnot will have dungeons that they'll dungeon crawl in, and then you'll have non-dungeon crawling as well. But that's kind of the idea. It's a ship game. Shattered Realms. The idea behind that is that somebody pulled all 52 cards of the deck of many things at once, and it created basically a kind of basically a dimensional destructive wave that basically tore the fabric of the prime material plane apart.
Yep.
And so all that's left of the planet is basically floating islands, and there are portals to different realms, and each realm is has in it a different, a now released physical manifestation of each of the cards of the deck of many things. And so the adventurers will then go through the different realms, and whether it's a good card or a bad card, whatever, either get help from or have to defeat each of the cards from the deck of many things.
And I voted as Roll for Mischief for the deck of many things, Shattered Worlds, because that is fucking awesome.
That's a really sweet idea.
Yeah, I have always been a fan of the deck of many things. I've used it in several different games in several different ways. Never to the absolute recklessness of telling my players, here, draw a card. But definitely a controlled use of the deck of many things. It's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With that, go hit up Josh on Twitter, follow Roll for Mischief, find that survey, give us a vote, see what game he will be running next. We are always open to people who would like to play. So hit me up on Twitter or find me on Facebook. And Twitter's probably best for the Roll for Mischief, though. And we can work something out. Otherwise, let's get on with our Voloheen. This is part 2 of episode 8 now. Is that what we're on?
Episode 8. Yep. Level 8, episode 8. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
Session
correct.
2, not part 2. Get the nomenclature correct. We're trying.
I'm sorry.
It's been 8 episodes and we're still struggling with the nomenclature. I love it.
well, session 2, we split it up on YouTube into parts 1, 2,
Yeah.
5.
Which, if you split that into different sessions we've run, it's like, I don't know, a lot. Anywho,
It's been over a year.
yeah, this episode is I'm gonna keep screwing it up, but help me out here. Was it Tides of Change?
Shifting Tides.
Shifting Tides. Oh
I
my
got you
god.
covered, yo.
I cannot say my own episode name. Shifting Tides. Real quick recap. Agner got married. He is having hallucinations of the wizard who spent some time torturing him.
Mm-hmm.
Hilofax and Theala, they, ended up with a nice little romantic relationship, a nice little evening after the wedding.
Who said anything about romantic?
That's true. They did the dirty in all of the ways. And Eridu got back together with his companion, and really kind of is what's been going on. So let's boring old married man. Yep.
I love it, dude.
Let's see what continues to happen. Do you guys want to take a second, talk about what your characters have been feeling, thinking, what they're up to?
Yeah. Give me a second. Sure, I'll go ahead and start with Agner. Agner is in a very, confused place right now, obviously, because he was having... Yeah, if y'all were watching the last session, the quality of the hallucinations that Agner was experiencing were, to use a technical term, fucked up. It was when he was about to give his vows to Ethel, he's looking at Ethel right in the face, and then all of a sudden it looks as if she is like a burned corpse or something. No more hair, the skin's blacked and cracked all over the place, and that's actually when Agner, for the first time in years, maybe even a decade, this is the first time he's been able to reclaim his ability to use lay on hands, but it was not really useful because she was okay the whole time. Agner's just been having hallucinations. And the way he feels about the hallucinations is that he doesn't really know what's happening, but he's reasonably confident that he did the right thing in asking On and Alton to leave his wedding, because he's always been wary about On's magical abilities. Has had reason to believe that On doesn't have any ethical considerations when it comes to using his magic, and also doesn't trust On at the moment, doesn't know what On's agenda is. So he totally leapt to this conclusion that On was causing the hallucinations for some kind of reason. But then after On left, the hallucinations kept happening. So Agner's in this weird spot of thinking that it was still On for some reason, but not really understanding why they're still happening. So I don't know. He's honestly just gonna try and like stay out of the limelight, don't do anything too crazy, and just try and I don't know, just try and live his normal life and hope that these hallucinations just pass at some point.
Okay. Really, the only thing going on with Theala is that she's kind of dehydrated right now. So, for the first time in a long time, somebody, she's come across somebody who's like half decent at what he does or at what they were doing. So satisfied is not necessarily the word that she would use, but hopeful that maybe she can train him to actually function. So yeah, that's where her headspace is at right now. She's like, oh hey, okay, I can work with this. And that's because that's pretty much how she doesn't give a fuck about Alton. She doesn't really, or nor On. She doesn't really know them. Alton's kind of cute.
I guess.
Eigner.
In a short way.
Huh?
In a short
In a short way.
Yeah, in a short. Hey, she's pansexual. She don't give a fuck. It's all good.
You were saying something about Agner?
Oh yeah, I don't think that she really knows Agner well enough to have like that strong of a feeling about him yet.
I mean, 2 years has passed. There can be as much
Or as
growth
little.
and interaction.
Well, okay, it's kind of hard to know because we did just jump 2 years.
Right.
I
So
would
I'm given that leeway of like, you could decide, yeah, we had a friendship. No, we didn't.
I would say just based on what each of us talked about, because Eigner was going through his whole thing where he was trying to recover, and then kind of he got his eyesight back eventually, and he did, and then he kind of had a budding relationship with
Ethel.
Huh?
Ethel.
Yeah, with Ethel, and like he's off in the city, and whereas Theala was in the city and she was working very closely with Emily, who, if Emily were to swing that way, she would totally would have hooked up with her. Emily's cute and she's strong personality. She's very much so up Theala's speed.
If we haven't hammered it home, Theala is very motivated by sex.
Very motivated by sex. Well, if you barely got like anyone worth having, you'd be motivated by sex too. You'd be like, this is not that good. Let's try the next guy.
I get it.
It's like there's a joke about how I think it was Lucy K joke, but he's like talking about like, you know, girls want to, like, guys always complain about girls want to cuddle, and it's like because you did nothing for her and she's still horny. You know, if a woman like if she gets her piece, she will leave you the fuck alone. And so that's where she's kind of at, is like nobody really has been able to like properly satisfy her. So she's always just kind of looking for that, you know, for that next potential, for that next piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But no, I would say just based on where they were at, they've interacted, especially because Eigner and Emily have a relationship. well enough to where she felt comfortable enough to stand next to Ethel at the wedding, but I would say not close enough where she has an emotional investment in him, which
For
is why
sure.
she was willing to bugger off with Halifax.
Uh-huh.
While everything like, oh, he's got the shit under control. I'm gonna go bugger off.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say that's where they're at right now. Personally, that's how I viewed it, was based on what we all talked about. They're a budding friendship.
All right. Well, let's see if we can, uh, damn it, I lost it. I had something, but it's gone now. So we will leave puns out of this and keep on moving on. All right.
All right.
So Halifax and Theala being in close proximity at the moment, Theala hears something that jostles her out of her sleep,
Okay.
and she hears some voices, and one of them says, "We really shouldn't be here. I told you that coming in. Why'd you insist that we come?" And On goes, "There. I mean, we've got to be able to talk to Agner some way, and maybe his friends can help. But I mean, we've got to get to know them first, don't we? And what better way to do that than by watching them sleep?" And yeah, you pretty much wake up at the sound of the voices at this point. What do you do?
I'm not gonna make a sound yet. I want to see. Are they okay? I'm gonna need to make a perception check to see if they're in the room or if they're outside the room. I'm sure.
Oh, you don't
'Cause
even
so
need
far,
to make a
she's
perception
keeping her
check.
eyes
You can
closed.
tell by the voices, like On, who has made no attempts to be quiet, is standing very close to the two of you.
Okay.
Alton is a little like he's trying to be quiet and is actually further away. And that's just by hearing him talk. You don't even
Right. Okay. Um. So yeah, I say, without opening my eyes, I'll just say, there are a number of ways that we can get to know each other without you interrupting my sleep for no reason.
Oh, I'm sorry, says On. Did I wake you?
Yes.
This is very strange. This doesn't happen very often.
Well, you don't probably have actual warriors that you interact with very often, do you?
No, usually it's Agner that I'm watching while he sleeps, and he's a very sound sleeper. Or Erdu, who likes to work himself out very very thoroughly before going to bed.
Well, that's what I did.
Ah, I'm not sure of the protocol in this situation. Alton says, "We leave, like we never should have come here in the first place."
So, I'm gonna go ahead and open up my eyes and just get out of bed
Okay.
and just stand there, bare ass naked, uh, and say, "Well, you've disturbed my sleep anyway. What do you have to say?"
Alton kind of respectfully turns away, and On just goes, "Would it make you more comfortable to be wearing clothes? Or should
Sounds
we
like
all
it
get
would
naked
make
too?"
you more comfortable. I'm fine.
Well, okay. Alton says, "On, we got to get to the point here. Look, um, we would like to be able to get Agner's trust again because we think there's something not right about Eridu. Something he needs to know, and I don't know if he'll hear it from us."
really, something's wrong with Eridu.
Yes, like I don't think that the person that was at Agner's wedding is Eridu.
Well, I've known Eridu a long time. What makes you... I don't feel that way. What makes you say that?
And Halifax kind of starts to stir. What's going on? Why are there people? Fiala, you're naked.
Yes, that's true.
Did he kind of like? Do you want a blanket?
I'm fine.
Okay. And he kind of pulls the covers over himself a bit more.
And I'm standing up anyway, so it's not like... I mean, I'm just like...
Who are these people?
These are those, like, guys that Eigner didn't like before.
As his eyes adjust to the dark, he's... Oh, right. On and Alton.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, the cute one and the dumb one.
I'm sure that Agner asked the two of you to leave the wedding, so why are you here now? In our bedroom in the middle of the night while we sleep naked. Alton just breathes deep. You know, I kept telling On we shouldn't come. This is a bad idea. That Agner doesn't want us around. That this is not going to help anything. And On says, you know, completely disregarding all this conversation, looks at the yellow and says, I have also known Eridu for quite a while. And I've seen him do many things. And I'm trying to think here. There's just something wrong about him. I look at him and he doesn't look right. He doesn't look all Eridu-ish. You know, when he sleeps, it's like his breathing isn't right. And when he talks, he doesn't say the right Eridu words. I can't really explain that to you aside from what I just said.
Yeah, I don't... he seems perfectly fine by me. I don't see any difference. Do you have something more concrete than that? Because so far, all I hear is, at best, gibberish.
Alton shakes his head and says, we really don't. We really don't. This was a mistake. We need to leave. We need to leave.
How about this? I'll make you a deal. You come back to me with something a lot more concrete. Something that can show me, someone who's known Eridu for just decades upon decades. And I will listen to you. If it's not Eridu, I would want to be the first to know.
On opens his mouth to speak, and Alton says, that sounds like a good idea. I think a much better idea than what we're planning, what we're trying to do here. And you can tell he's giving, you know, in the darkness with your drow eyes, he's giving On a very pointed look. And On shuts his mouth and kind of drops in on himself and walks out of the room. Alton again says, I'm sorry to be an inconvenience. This is very awkward for all of us. I try to keep him on some level of here-ness, but he just views the world in his own way.
Okay. Uh, yeah. Yeah, okay.
When he leaves Halifax, he goes, you know that On traveled with uh, Alton for a little while. There are several stories of their misadventures.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe we should talk to Emily about them, see if they are at all trustworthy. I don't see Alton traveling blindly with someone who is reckless or dangerous. Well, maybe reckless, but this is a strange situation, and I don't know that it really is ours to get involved in.
Not right now. I don't see any need. We'll. How about this? We'll go talk to Emily in a little bit, and let me get a few more hours of sleep, and then we'll go talk to Emily, and um, uh, we'll go from there. And so then I climb back into bed.
All right. Agner,
Mm-hmm.
you are walking in pure shadow. It's just
Okay.
everything around you is dark. You can see a few squares of illuminated light off in the distance. Um, and as you kind of take in everything around you, you're walking through a city street. Um, the clouds overhead are faintly illuminated by the moon, but mostly obscuring the starlight, and you, without really thinking, take a turn, open up a door, and walk into a building. When you do, uh, the whole outside world just dissipates, evaporates into nothingness, and you're standing facing a what looks like a cage with bars of glowing energy.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear, a muttering voice from inside the cage. Just, this doesn't quite look right. Yes, very shoddy workmanship. I, and you can see a person hunched over something with their back facing you, and a moment later he turns around and Finnegan says, Agner, you found me. Good. I hoped that you would make your way here.
So Egner, really quick, just a outside character moment. Egner never met Finnegan.
He didn't? Oh,
No,
that's right. He didn't.
Egner was gone the whole time. But this is totally within
But Finnegan
Finnegan's
does know who
character.
Agner is. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Finnegan's omniscient.
Yeah.
You
Well, and
know,
I actually remembered that, like, as part of the interactions early on when I planned this, that Agner didn't meet Finnegan.
Yeah,
But I forgot now.
for sure.
But I had definitely had an awareness that Finnegan knows who Agner is, since the whole mission was to save him.
Wait,
Absolutely.
wasn't Finnegan the? Wait, which one was Finnegan?
The crazy wizard guy that came out of nowhere in the
Yeah.
episode that I just DM'd. And
Oh, the
then
one with the chalk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did the chalk. He teleported you guys around. He helped Halifax with his first scrying. All of that fun stuff.
I couldn't remember
Because
if that was him or if it was the crazy old codger in the tree.
Because
in the
I
tree.
fail at
Hmm.
remembering what Finnegan looked like.
Drew's character, the one that was like,
Oh,
Uh,
the divining character.
yeah,
oh, Bartleby. Bartleby.
yeah, Bartle. Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
right, Bartle.
that's Bartleby. Yeah.
Mm.
So Finnegan, the way he looks, he just looks kind of like your typical, like he's really just a crusty old man. You know, he's like a human, just white, scraggly beard. Like he doesn't have a lot of hygiene. It's another way of saying that his charisma is 8. You know, he's just
Yeah.
like a very crusty, like kind of disgusting looking old man. But he's got this kind of charm about him that can only come from being the smartest person, the smartest wizard to ever walk the face of Volohin.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, anyways, getting right back into the moment, he said, what did he say? Something like, "I knew you'd find me here."
I'm glad. Yeah, glad you
Yeah,
found me here.
glad you found me here. And then Agner is in this weird daze because, of course, where he is standing is like this exact mock-up of where Agner was being imprisoned and tortured by Vincent Vachon.
Mhm.
Agner was in that cage that Finnegan is in right now.
Yeah.
So Agner's on the other side of the glowing energy cage, and he just looks at Finnegan right in the eyes, and he just mutters this thing over and over again and says, "It's all a dream. It's all a dream. It's a waking dream. It's a vivid, waking dream.
Well,
It's
well,
all a
well.
dream."
Of course, it's a dream.
It's
I mean, how else do you expect me to get a hold of you in this place?
wait, who are you again?
Oh, that's right. You haven't met me. My name is Finnegan, and well, let's say that I'm trying to help you escape.
Escape from what? You're the one in the cage.
Oh, right. Well, I mean, your friends. Yeah, I helped them get into that bureau building to get you out and free you from some crazy wizard.
Oh. Uh, Thank you then.
I mean,
Okay.
don't thank me yet.
Okay, I won't. I take it back.
Good, good. That's the sensible thing to do.
Wait, why do you want to free me? I am free. Look, I am free. I just got married. I'm free.
Come here. This might make more sense to you if you just see this.
Agner gets closer to Finnegan, but doesn't get too close to the bars. He stops just short.
He holds up to you. He grabs what he was looking over and like, holds it out to you, and like you just see blood drain down and like the stomach of this thing that he's looking at just falls out as he shows it to you. It's a dead rat that's been cut open down the center, and he starts prodding at some of the intestines, and he's like, look at that craftsmanship. This is garbage. This doesn't even look real." And he just throws it to the ground and spits on it. It's sloppy. It's lazy. Don't you get it? Don't you understand it now?
Not even a little bit. Do you want some more rats? I mean, I'm sure I could find you some more, but like,
Oh, find me. What a wonderful idea. So look, I'm trapped in this place, and you're dreaming. We already, yeah.
we've established that. Yeah.
Find me, and it'll all make a lot more sense. I can explain it all.
Any clues as to where you are? Are you literally in this cage? Are you literally here where I was?
I'm right here where I am. You're the one who's not here. You're the one dreaming. I am where I am.
Uh, okay.
So figure this out, right? You know how to find me.
I will try to find you.
Good.
This
Good.
is all a dream. This is
Now
just
listen,
all a dream. This is all a
Agner.
dream. What?
I've got one more very important thing you need to understand when you find me.
Okay.
And that is, and before he can say anything else, you just hear this ear-splitting wail Like he opens his mouth and it just sounds like a baby is crying. And then you wake up to the sound of a crying infant, and Ethel rolls over and like flops her arm across you, and then, Agner, will you check on her this time?
Okay, yes, I suppose it's my turn. Ugh. Sorry. I just had the strangest dream.
Tell me about it after she's back asleep.
Okay. And then Agner gets up and walks over to where the baby is and picks her up and starts doing the very daddy thing. Oh, little baby, little baby, little baby.
So, a year has passed since your wedding.
Mm-hmm. It's going so quickly.
Right? Ethel got pregnant very quickly after your wedding, and you are now the father of a 3-month-old daughter. The pride and joy of your life, as all daughters should be for their fathers.
Mm-hmm. Her name is Willow.
Her name is Willow. Good. I was going to ask you what her name was. And cutting over to Theala, you want to give us a bit of a rundown of how things have gone with you and Halifax in the last year.
Okay, really quick before, we talking Buffy Willow or from the movie?
Just liked the name and just wanted to use the name.
Okay.
It's not really tied to anything at all.
She's definitely not a halfling. She might be a wizard, but we'll see.
No, she's a half elf, right? Because isn't Ethel? Wait, or is Ethel human?
Ethel's human.
Oh, okay, totally human. It's all good.
Yeah.
Got mixed up.
Okay. How long has it been? You said
a year.
A year since not Marty. Wrong character. A year since Agner's wedding. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, a year isn't a long time for an elf, but it would be a long time for an ASMR.
Maybe.
I mean, for an elf, it's the equivalent of like a month, but for an ASMR, it's they live human years. So, I think she would have stuck around. Like he seems to be. I would assume that he seems to be pretty into her. So, she thinks he has some good potential. She's been doing a good job of training him. They are in a pretty good relationship. She's still, I would say, after only a year, she's not quite settled yet. But I don't know if I don't think that she's really, because again, in her timeline, it's been like basically a month. So Halifax may or may not have been willing or ready to say that I love you, but she has not. In her timeline, it is still
too early, dude.
Too early.
So her and Halifax are Halifax is much further along in the relationship than she is.
Right, and I'm not sure if he would be understanding of that or not, because I'm not going to make that call. I don't know if he would be more understanding of that or not, but I would say that she is aware of his feelings, and so she is. If he is upset by it, she's understanding of those moments where he kind of gets upset that she's, after a year, still hasn't been willing to commit to that level yet.
I think, judging from how Drew's played Halifax, he's smart enough to really take the world as it is and take in information as it's presented to him. And I think if the two of them had enough conversations about the way elves approach time and how long it takes for them to really progress emotionally and how much consideration goes into it, I think he'd be really understanding. He might emotionally constantly be wanting more,
Right.
But he would also be understanding that this is the way you process, and it's a big cultural difference between the two species.
Right. So then, yeah, for sure, then she would be aware of the sensitivities of his emotions, even though he accepts it.
Yeah.
She also accepts his emotions, and that as such a short-lived creature, I mean, she can outlive 10 of them.
Yeah.
So, so she's aware of how sometimes he'll get a little bit emotional, frustrated, and upset, and kind of weather it with him, and she's willing to talk to him.
And speaking of which, the last few days, Halifax has been very excited.
Okay.
Everything about his energy has been great. You know, the sex has been very good, very amped up, very like energetic. He's just always seems in a good mood, and he's been doing things to sort of surprise her here and there. And a courier comes and brings him a note on this particular day.
Okay.
He answers the door enthusiastically and gives the courier a rather generous tip, and then opens it. And you kind of watch his whole demeanor, like just everything sort of inflates for a moment.
Okay.
Inflates or deflates?
Deflates. I'm sorry.
Oh,
deflates.
Gotcha.
He like drops.
Gotcha.
And then he turns to Theala and says, "Theala, we need to talk for a moment."
Okay.
I have been accepted to go on an expedition.
Look, I'm proud of you.
I'm very excited. I mean, I've been waiting for this news last week, but it means that I'll be gone for a few months.
Okay.
He kind of takes a deep breath. You're expecting you can kind of feel that he was expecting this conversation to be a little bit harder, like expecting you to have a little more of a. And then he kind of
What the fuck is a few months?
Right, exactly. Kind of shakes himself off and goes, "It's going to be difficult for me to be away from you for that amount of time."
Oh, okay. Okay.
But it is something that I'm very much looking forward to, and not something that you would be able to accompany me on.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's fine.
Okay.
I have my work here too.
Okay. You kind of see him like, the energy kind of come back a little bit. Well, brilliant. I should start packing. I'm leaving tomorrow.
Oh, do you need help?
That would be very lovely.
Okay. So I help.
Right.
I pick out I'm assuming that well over a year into a relationship, I have completely cycled out his wardrobe.
Yeah.
So I help him actually pack.
He doesn't even know what clothes he has anymore. Fiala's just dressing him every day. Like, you're gonna look so cute in this. Oh gosh.
Yeah, basically. Oh no.
I almost imagine Theala as like the goth kid, and she's gotten like this. He wouldn't be a prep, but let's just say like a nerd who's just really never really cared about his outfits to now start dressing in all black and wearing black lipstick.
Oh no! I mean, for a drow.
I know. It's the drow. It's 100% me thinking she's a drow, so she's gonna be all moody and.
Oh no. For and actually, I would even argue so much that her mood, whether or not she's aware of it, her mood has lifted significantly.
Yeah.
in her time with Halifax. So no, I would say she, because again, she like Drow, a lot of Drow, I would argue, yeah, would be very gothy, but she was also a soldier, so she has a different kind of presentation. It's much more formal. It's a much more um, uh, like crisp look that just a goth is just ultimately not gonna have. So,
Yeah.
and plus that just wouldn't bode well with her lilac eyes.
That's true. The black just doesn't go with my eyes.
Yeah.
So I'm
You got used to wearing it because of her uniform, but not because of her.
I'm going to do the thing that I have been doing a couple times now and jump forward a few days.
Yep.
You are all, the two of you, rather, and Eridu, Emily, and some of the people. Some of the people who have been part of the original underground organization that set up and overthrew Garth.
Vive
You're
la
all
resistance.
Yep. You're all meeting in what was once a secret headquarters, but now is like, a very well known, like almost place of political importance, where a lot of political leaders meet when coming into Twin Harbors. You're all meeting there. Emily, it's a pretty formal meeting with an informal crowd, meaning it's close friends, but the meeting itself has a very formal feel to it.
Are we at the Temple of Inesti, the basement?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Emily says, "Thank you all for being here. As you know, Garth's final trial is coming up. And I think we've gathered enough to really. I think we can put him away for good, but I've recently come into contact with two old friends, and I think the information they have might let us push for execution.
Whoa.
I wanted to speak with all of you before I made this decision myself."
Agner speaks up and says something like, Emily, I had no idea you were seeking death from the start of this.
It has never really been my intention, but what these two have brought forth, it's disturbing. It is more than just political corruption and a grab for power. We're talking about inciting war. We're talking about institutionalizing torture. We're talking about the cost of thousands of lives, and potentially, had things not gone the way they did, hundreds of thousands.
You speak of war. Can any of this be verified? The information from these contacts of yours?
Yes, one of them has brought forth several correspondent letters when he was taking part in a secret project ordered by Garth. At the time, he didn't know, at least from his story. Perhaps it's best that we speak with these people directly rather than getting my secondhand information. And she, walks out of the room for a moment, comes back in, followed by On and Alton. Alton's looking very uncomfortable in being in the presence of Agner and Eridu. But On comes and just sits at the table and smiles at everyone. How's everyone today?
Agner glares at them, but not in too hostile a fashion, and he just says, Fine, thank you.
Good, good. And Emily says, "On, can we? Why don't you tell them what you told me about Garth, and show them the letters, give them your evidence." And for the first time, On looks a little bit uncomfortable, and he kind of casts a sideways glance at Eridu, but doesn't actually look at him. And he says, "Well, so I was working with Garth for a while, and we built an area with druids to house a landing place for ships, and it turns out that base became a place where weapons of war were being made. Um, and these are the letters with the orders. There's a lot more that I didn't directly have a hand in, and he goes on to just kind of explain as best he can the torture of the druids. Um, he even brings in that he was the one who helped the druids contact Tix in the first place.
Mmm.
That was something that Garth had also kind of correlated, under the assumption that having this fey creature on their side would give the druids the power they need to really be able to shape and change the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Which of course led to the torture of the druids and Brutus losing her legs.
Yep.
And this is where On looks at Eridu and says, and I did a lot of this because I felt that some people that I had become close with were pulling strings in certain ways that resulted in deaths of other people that I was really close with, and maybe perhaps pulling the strings of Twin Harbors. It was Garth who allowed the shipment of the dwarven constructs that we now call Warforged into the harbors in the first place. It was Garth who seemed to be brokering a deal of safe passage through the harbors for both the Warforged and the Azamar, trying to play both sides, it seems. And he aided both sides of a growing conflict. And I believe that it was he who incited the conflict in the first place. I think that Garth hired the dwarven assassins who killed Ambassador Taladrius. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Taladris, yeah.
Taladrius, yeah.
So Agner steps in and says, "On, I'm not disputing any of these claims. I know that Garth is the scum on the bottom of all of our shoes with all the things that he has done. Yes, I don't dispute any of this, but there's a fundamental issue here. How can I trust you?"
We were once friends, Agner, and I understand that over time, certain actions lead it to be a possibility that people become not friends any longer. That no amount of sleep or wakefulness will ever bridge the gap between friendship and not friendship. In this moment, it is not your trust I need, but the trust of all of these people here who are looking for justice for the actions of Garth.
Very well. I will let them make the judgment.
All right. And if you look over the papers, it's more than just like speculation. She does actually, even though he kind of stuttered his way through that with a lot of it seeming like speculation,
Mm-hmm.
he does have the writs of execution. Uh, bit like for the ambassador, things that do actually tie Garth and so neatly with all of these things.
Oh yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
this is all gonna connect for Agner as he's reading it because he's had like the personal experiences with many of these things that
Mhm.
On is talking about. So it's really like filling in all the gaps of stuff that he didn't know, and yeah, it's all connecting. So
Yeah.
he's on board with it after reviewing the documents, but he still is not going to show that he's super trustworthy of, or he's not super trusting of On quite yet. But he does
Mhm.
believe everything.
And also like Darius is part of this meeting as he was a influential member of the order,
The resistance.
the resistance, and he also seeing these things and understanding that his company, it was his company, right? The didn't
uh,
he do the or was that?
uh,
I don't remember the name of
it's I mean like he doesn't really have a stake in the official like South Earden shipping company. That's
That's the
like
one.
no,
Yeah.
that's that I was intending for that to be another figure.
Right.
But Darius's family does run shipping like that. You know, like
Yeah.
they just have a
The
different.
Buffos have
They
a
use like
shipping thing.
yeah, they use the family name for their
Yeah.
thing.
And South Earden was a competitor because we stole from them, did we? With Darius.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
it was a competitor, and it was
it
yeah,
makes sense to him,
definitely.
which also ties in Sapphire Dream with
Yeah,
with
with Garth.
Garth as well.
Hmm.
So, yeah, after reviewing the evidence, all the other leaders, who are all prominent political members at this point, seem to very much be bought in, and what is? I'm sorry, I'm going to be asking a lot of names, and I'm sorry if that makes it come off a little bit unprofessional here. What is the name of the other political figure who rose up after the assassination of Taladrius?
Orin Vitrell.
Vitrell, that's right.
Yeah.
Vitrell had actually been able to skate past a lot of the things that had been going on in Twin Harbors and scapegoat Garth in a lot of ways. The paperwork that's coming across your desk will not allow Vitrell to do that anymore. He
Hmm.
is a big hand in a lot
Oh
of the
yeah,
undermining trade deals. Um,
definitely.
so, hi, Doc. I know. I see you.
Oh,
You're stepping on
Gertie.
stuff. She's like stepping on my mic and everything,
Yeah.
like my little volumizer.
Yeah.
So, yeah. If everyone's in agreement,
So, how do you intend to utilize these documents?
Emily says, I would like to bring Garth before the Celestial Court and have him tried as a warmonger.
It seems like you would have the ground for such a case right here.
Yes, I want him held accountable, and I would like Vitrell held accountable for the death of the ambassador, as well as the lives lost because of the abuse of the Sapphire Dream, as well as skirmishes fought along the borders by both armies.
Hmm.
They were small things. Thankfully, there were treaties embarked before the Empire and the kingdoms went to war. I think we narrowly avoided a very bad thing. Now that I see all these pieces in front of me.
Yes, we should be we should be thankful. Even with all the strife, With all the deaths, we did narrowly avoid a bad thing.
Um, as you're talking and looking, addressing the table, you see sitting at the far end of the table, uh, Zarkon. His fingers steepled, just resting his face against them. And if a the Warforged features are very still, but something in the eyes tells you that he is very amused.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else seems to take notice of him,
Mm-hmm.
and as far as you knew, that seat was empty before now.
Yeah. Agner will simply freeze in place, and he's like in a weird like mental spot because he's recognized that when he has these like hallucinations and when he acts out, like it gets really strange and really awkward because everything falls away. So
Mm-hmm.
he's just kind of frozen like a deer in the headlights or something, and he just stares at Zarkon and just glares. He's like kind of trailing off at the end of his sentence and just gives this like crazy stare down across the other side of the table.
Zarkon leans forward, staring at him, and then as Darius starts to speak, to like voice his own opinion to these matters, he just says, to the whole table, but directed towards Agner. So Agner, you had a visitor the other night, I hear.
What now?
Someone was able to reach out to you. Someone asking for help.
How could you possibly know about that?
I know a lot of things. It's my job to know them.
Okay. If you're so smart then, Darius, can you tell me where in the
Oh, this
where
is not
huh?
Darius. This is
Oh.
Sarkon.
Oh, Zarkon. Oh, dude, I
He
totally
cut Darius off mid sentence.
Oh, I see. It's
And
making
now
sense now. Okay, so it's Zarkon. So I'm sorry. I just got to get refocused here.
that's okay.
So Zarkon says that, and he says, "How can you possibly know about that? It's my
Which
job
is
to
still a
know
fitting
things."
question to ask Sarkon, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So if you're so smart, Zarkon, can you tell me where in Volohine Finnegan is?
I suppose it wouldn't hurt. You can't get there anyway.
Says you.
You can find him in the same cage that held you.
Hmm.
The same room, the same building, the same place.
Hmm.
I think you know how to get there.
I'm sure I'll manage.
But I don't know. He looks at his hand as though he has fingernails and he's kind of cleaning them out. I don't know that our old friend would let you back into his sanctum.
Vincent? I don't care what Vincent thinks.
All right. He leans forward and kind of taps his metal body and he says, "Just remember, this might be the body I inhabit, but where I truly live, it's in you."
Not anymore. No longer.
And with that, you kind of like the space where Zarkon is at is now empty again. And Emily says, "Well, if there's nothing more, I suppose this meeting is adjourned."
Agner simply just goes like a whoop, bloop, bloop, and then he just looks like he's in a daze and doesn't really respond at all.
All right. Catching you two before you leave, Emily will say to Theala, Theala, as as captain of our watch, I would like you to accompany um, or to rather head up the caravan that's taking Garth to the capital. I know he has supporters between here and there, and I would only trust you to keep them from him.
As you wish.
Egner, do you want to accompany them to the capital as well? See the hearing?
I would be honored to make sure that Garth is brought to justice.
Eridu steps up next to you, says, I'm hurt you didn't invite me to this little powwow, Emily, but there's no way that I would miss this. God, he's talking Eridu's voice. You forget it when it matters most.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
You're wearing a lot of hats right now. I will kind of like divert the conversation for a second and drop my voice and say to the three of them, forgive me. This may be out of nowhere, but have any of you seen or heard from this Finnegan character lately?
Emily kind of gives you a sideways look and says, no, after we rescued you, Finnegan went home.
Is that so?
Yeah. He came here from somewhere else and assured us that after completing our mission to help you, he knew how to get back to that place and left.
Very well. Very well. And Agner will just have like a faraway look on it in his eyes.
Give me just a second. I think someone might be at my door, so I'll be right back.
Sure. Where in Voloheen is Finnegan Odwick? I don't know, man. I don't really know. Gosh, I'm having all sorts of like crazy theories as to what's actually going on right now, you know? Is it like all a dream? Is it like this crazy simulation? I don't know.
I think they've done it more than once, but I can remember very specifically Deep Space Nine. There was an episode where
My dogs are weird. There's nobody here.
Like accidentally killed somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and so they had him live out his entire prison sentence, like in his mind.
Oh.
But it was like only like a few hours.
Oh. That's trippy.
Yeah.
I am back, yeah.
All right, cool. You're back.
Yep.
So we just talked to Emily.
Yep, and she said he's gone. Finnegan went home.
Yeah, and then that's when Agner's like, okay, and then he's all confused and just got this faraway look, and he's trying to process all the information and hallucinations and all that kind of stuff.
So, moving on to the journey, you know, unless you wanted to role play it, I'm assuming that you spoke with Ethel, let her know where you'd be going.
Yeah, absolutely, and he'll just say it in this very matter-of-fact way and say, of course I will miss you and I will miss little Willow here, but this is something that I need to do. I have been opposed to Garth and his evil actions for years and years and years, and this is something that needs to happen.
She nods and says, I agree. We need closure on this. Once and for all. Have a safe journey, and hopefully anybody who followed him has gone into hiding or has realized that they were foolish, and you won't have any real trouble along the way.
Agner also makes sure to talk to some of the druids that live in Bronzewood Grove around. They're pretty much like neighbors with all these druids that have their own little spots and everything in the area. And he just asks them, keep them safe, you know, keep Bronzewood Grove safe.
And of course, they promise they will, as ever, stay on guard.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And then we're ready for that journey, I guess, dude.
Yeah,
Wait, so we're going to Celestia?
that is the plan.
Or
Yeah.
Elysium, or whatever the name is of the.
Yeah, like so. Yeah, the way that we looked at it, Celestia is kind of like New York City.
Uh-huh.
Elysium is like Manhattan.
Ah, okay. That's making sense.
So, but I mean, the council or the court would be in Celestia for sure, because it's the.
You mean
Right.
Elysium, like in the more zoomed in, like
Or yeah,
concentrated.
that's what I meant to say. Yeah,
Exactly, Elysium.
I got those.
Yeah, with the core city, because New York City, really like real New York City is Manhattan.
Right.
Like that's what people think of. Not that it's not the other not boroughs, but sections aren't or cities aren't real New York City. But like when people think
Yeah.
New York City, they think Manhattan.
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely.
Yeah. So, on the road, you're traveling, and Garth is kept in, just like those wooden cell carts. And the bars of the cell are still made of metal, but the carts are of wood, and it's just anyone can see him. It's almost like parading him through town to sort of humiliate him.
He deserves
the
it.
the
I want to
most-
interject really quick, just based on what Diallo would do.
Yeah.
She would actually have 3 carts, each of them with a Garth in it.
Oh, okay.
So that way no one knows.
Who's
Which
the real
Garth?
Garth?
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so you've got 2 Garth lookalikes and a Garth, and it's a lot easier to find a Garth lookalike now. Because when you see him, he is very much a wasted away version of his old take it easy, Lux, his old heavy self.
Mhm.
He's lost lots of weight eating just prison food.
For several years.
Yeah, he's grown a very grisly, unkempt beard. His hair is grown out. He's got a big bald spot. Think George Bluth, but with Oscar length hair. And you're traveling with the best guard you can possibly get. And you leave the city. It's not just the wagons with Garths. It's also like other wagons with provisions and whatnot.
Right.
When you leave the city, then the cage is covered, so people can't see what's inside.
Right. I'll play, by the way, what is it called? 3-card Monty
Mm-hmm.
with the carts from time to time.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The Garth lookalikes, they make pleasant conversation once outside the city.
Right.
They play their part quite well with never really giving away and who they are, like never really talking or anything as you're in the city.
Right.
But Garth, whenever Eridu or Agner or someone he knows well comes by, he'll kind of call them over or try to get their attention. Occasionally, trying to appeal to their sensible natures. Occasionally, throwing a bit of a chide, rude remark at them when he doesn't get any real reaction from them.
Mm-hmm.
After a few days of travel, you've set down for the night, and Garth is allowed to come out in chains to. Well, I guess if you guys wouldn't let him do that, then
Huh?
would you let him sit at the fire in chains, or would you keep him in the cage the entire time?
Mm. I
How
mean,
big is the cage?
we're still like humane,
Yeah.
you
How
know.
big is the cage?
I mean, it's the kind of cage you'd cart prisoners around in, so it's big enough for 4 or 5 people to sit in, kind of cramped together. But one person alone, it's pretty spacious for them.
Okay, so what I'll say is I would let him out to exercise and to like
Relieve himself.
relieve himself and
Mm.
stuff like that, but then like under extreme guard. But then once he's done, like so probably after like an hour or two, like getting some outside time, I
Mm.
would then he would then go back in.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll still like, deliver to him a nice bowl of hot stew fresh
Yeah.
off of the cooking fire, and make sure he's got some blankets so he's not like
Yeah.
freezing to death in there.
Okay.
Like, we'll
We're not
make him
inhumane. We're just
comfortable.
not stupid.
Yeah, we're not
Yeah.
exactly. We're humane but not stupid.
Garth will one of these times when it's Agner's job to watch him. Just Agner,
Garth.
Agner. So what do they have against me? What are they trying to pin on me?
You're not going to get information out of me as easily as that. And as far as them pinning things on you, Garth, as far as I'm concerned, you're getting everything you deserve and more.
Look, come on. I know I've done some underhanded things. I've had years to think about it, but you've got to believe that everything I did for the love of Twin Harbors. I did to protect my people.
Garth, I don't believe you have an ounce of love in your heart, in your entire body. I don't think you have any love at all. I think you're a sociopath.
Oh, come on, Agner. You've known me for years before any of this happened. You've known my wife. I've given you many jobs. I've paid you well.
Those qualities don't disqualify you from being an evil bastard.
I see you have your mind made up about me then. Poisoned like everyone else against me by those you call your friends.
What makes you think you're so innocent, Garth?
Because I couldn't possibly be the only person to pull strings around here. There would have to be many more. One man behind a war?
Doesn't sound like a very strong defense to me so far.
The real threats hide in plain sight. The people who were accomplices with me, the people who gave me orders. And you call some of them friends. You trust some of them implicitly. How much do you really know about an elf's motivation? Think about how long they live. Think about how much time they have to play the long game.
Agner like immediately has a sense of like who he's referencing, but he doesn't really like give into it and say and then he goes on to say, "Is that what you're going to do when we get to Elysium? When you're standing in front of that tribunal, you're going to throw other people under the cart? You know, you're going to name names. You're going to try and shift the blame for all of this. Is that your strategy? Because it's not going to work."
No, when we get to Elysium, I'm going to simply stand up there and tell the truth.
Well, I wish you all the best. But I'm confident that the truth will show it my way.
If you are so keen in your own belief of reality, very well. give my best to your friends. Give my best to your wife. Give my best to your new, beautiful daughter.
You don't talk about them. You don't talk about them at all. Don't mention them.
He kind of gives a sick smile at that reaction.
How
Agner's
loudly
pissed.
did you say that?
Oh, Agner, how loudly did you say that? Like really
Yeah.
loud. Like he was
Oh.
like he was keeping it cool, and I didn't really reflect it in my voice, but he would get like this kind of like growl thing going on, and just like definitely raising his voice up another notch. Just obvious aggression.
In that
in that
case, Diala walks up behind you, and I would assume that it is a spell that has become quite apparent to what's his face?
Garth?
Garth. Over the past few days, and she begins weaving the heat metal spell around her ocarina, and she doesn't activate it yet, but she kind of like does it as a threat, and she says, Garth, are we having problems today?
No, just to chat with an old friend.
Okay.
I think we're
Says him.
about over with that, though.
Okay. Very good. And then she collapses it. I'm going to obviously burn that spell slot.
Okay. Yeah, I do believe once Garth is successfully put back into his cage, we've given Agner enough to think about. This might be a good spot for a break.
Oh,
Yeah.
Agner's got enough to think about.
Yeah,
Oh, he does.
Yeah, that's good.
Asa,
All right.
Asa, what you're doing with this episode is just crazy, dude. You know that, right?
I do. It's very ambitious. There's
but
a lot to it.
It's ambitious, but I love it, and it just makes me think like, you know, like whenever you have like a TV show that's been going on for long enough, like the writers kind of experiment and do some like wild shit that ends up being like really memorable, you know? And that's just where I think where we are at the story. It's like we've done like very standard D&D type things. We've done like very like much more gritty, like realistic type things, and now we need something that's like mixing it up in a big way.
And I do apologize for the lack of combat. I know
Oh,
that's the thing
fine.
that D&D is
Oh,
brilliant at.
no,
but
it's fine, dude. Like, you know, I'm really into just pure story games. You
Yeah,
know,
it hasn't
even
even
I don't
been
need
a
combat.
session,
That's
so-
fine.
Yeah.
We've gone many sessions without combat before.
Oh yeah. And we could do it again.
All right. I promise at some point, though, there will be a dice to be rolled before we end the stream for the day.
Yeah, we got to roll at least one dice.
At least one die.
One die. Sorry.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break. We'll be
Let's take a
back
quick
shortly. I need some coffee.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Be back in 10:15, y'all.